Welcome into the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Coming up on today's show, we're going to take a look at some Jimmy G trade destinations. He's elite at slinging the rock. I'm elite at eating cereal. But there's only one cereal brand that I eat, and that is Magic Spoon, the presenting sponsor of today's show. Per serving, you get 13 grams of protein, 0 grams of sugar, only 4 grams of net carbs, and you can get $5 off at checkout by going to magicspoon.com/49ers Report. Let's get to the latest on Jimmy Garoppolo. So, as we know over time, since Jimmy G was traded to the Niners from the New England Patriots, he's dealt with a lot of injuries throughout his time in San Francisco. And this past offseason, he was put on the clock because the Niners moved up to number 3 in the 2021 NFL Draft to take their future franchise quarterback in Trey Lance. The reason why we're talking about Jimmy G trade destinations on this show is because he's due $24 million in 2021 and $24 million next season as well. Fred Warner is due for a contract extension. If Nick Bosa shows that he can stay healthy going into year 3, he is also going to secure the bag as well. So the Niners might have to do their due diligence and clear some salary cap, trade away Jimmy G in order to pay those all-pro caliber players. For the Jimmy G truthers out there, I want to set the foundation, and I want to get this point across. I have defended Jimmy Garoppolo on the 49ers Report. I have spoken highly of him. I like Jimmy G, but clearly Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, this entire organization has questions about his durability, his ability to stay on the field. Otherwise, they wouldn't have exhausted all of this draft capital to move up to number 3 to take Trey Lance. The big issue for why the Niners have a lot of questions about Garoppolo, it's his injury issues. And that's been the common theme throughout his tenure with the Niners. He's traded to San Francisco back in 2017. You saw a glimpse of what he could do. Went 5-0, completed 67% of his passes in 2017. And in that time, threw for 1,500 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 picks. The next season, he only played in 3 games because he tore his ACL in that fluky play where he just didn't get out of bounds, absorbed some contact, and he blew out his knee. And some expectations were really high for him and the Niners going into that season. Some Super Bowl expectations. That all got flushed down the toilet because of that knee injury. And these injury issues go back to his time with the Patriots. When he took over for Tom Brady, his tenure as the starting quarterback was cut short because of injuries. 2019, he was finally able to stay on the field, and you saw a glimpse of what Belichick saw when they drafted him and what Shanahan saw when they traded for him. Completed 69% of his passes, threw for almost 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, 13 picks, helped lead the Niners to the Super Bowl. But once again last year, those injury issues suffered. And as we look and project forward to the 49ers depth chart at the quarterback position, Jimmy G is going to go into this season as QB1. Trey Lance is right on his heels as QB2. We're not even going to talk about Josh Rosen or Nate Sudfeld because they're not realistic options to start. Trey Lance is if he plays well during training camp as well as the preseason. He's already impressing a lot of people in Santa Clara as well as people across the league. And if he lights the world on fire, it is a realistic possibility Lance takes over as the starter, which would pave the way for a possible Jimmy G trade. So what do you think the 49ers will do with Jimmy G? Type T for trade, type C for cut. Be sure to get those votes in the comment section down below. Predict the future of Jimmy G. Coming your way, we're going to take a look at 6 Jimmy G trade destinations. And I think all of these teams that Jimmy G could get traded to are viable options to trade for Garoppolo. Let's start off with the New Orleans Saints and take a look at some of the questions they have at the quarterback position. Drew Brees, the future Hall of Famer, retired in the offseason. Jameis Winston, going to be the starter. We know that he has ability, but the turnovers throughout his entire career have been a massive problem. And I don't want you to sit here and tell me that Taysom Hill is a realistic option as the starter at the quarterback spot. When he took over for Drew Brees last year, he didn't look like a guy who can win games consistently in the NFL. Are his athletic traits very, very good at the quarterback spot? Yes. Is he a Swiss Army knife? No doubt, but not at the quarterback position. Let's get back to Jameis Winston. The ability is there. He's put up monster numbers. Back in 2019, he was the full-time starter before Tom Brady took over and won the Lombardi Trophy. 60.7% completion percentage. It's not good enough. That's well below league average. Yes, he did throw for more than 5,000 yards. Those numbers inflated because the Bucs were always coming back in games. He threw for 33 touchdowns to go along with those 5,000 yards, but 30 picks? The decision-making from Jameis, not good at all. He became the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for 30-plus touchdowns and 30 picks. And while the yards are certainly impressive, there is certainly a way that Jameis Winston doesn't play well with the New Orleans Saints. And that roster is very expensive. It's one of the most expensive across the league. The Saints have no cap space. They have a roster that is ready to win right now. So if Jameis Winston doesn't play well, maybe Jimmy Garoppolo could get traded to the Saints, and they immediately become Super Bowl players. So I'm giving you my Jimmy G trade destinations. Send in your Jimmy G trade ideas and just start flooding the chat. You can get as hypothetical as you want. Send in your Jimmy G trade ideas in the comment section down below. Shout out to Magic Spoon for sponsoring today's 49ers report. This is why Magic Spoon is so phenomenal. So right now in my hands, I have a box of frosted Magic Spoon cereal. And we know there are frosted flakes out there, but the ingredients in that cereal, it's garbage compared to Magic Spoon. Magic Spoon, per serving, loaded with 13 grams of protein, 4 grams of net carbs, 0 grams of sugar. It's grain-free and gluten-free. The other leading Frosted Flake brand, 2 grams of protein compared to 13 grams of protein, 31 grams of net carbs, which is ridiculous compared to 4, 13 grams of sugar compared to 0 grams of sugar. All of the flavors from Magic Spoon are delicious. I love fruity, I love frosted, I love cocoa. My personal favorite is peanut butter, although on my power rankings, fruity, certainly making a play on peanut butter. If you want to see what I'm talking about and get the healthiest and tastiest cereal out there, get $5 off by going to magicspoon.com/49ers report. Another Jimmy G trade destination, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger has regressed a lot in recent years, and the elbow injury that he suffered 2 years ago, which cost him a lot of time, continues to concern me. I'm not seeing a lot of zip on Ben Roethlisberger's throws. And I think his athleticism, he's never been the most athletic guy, but the athleticism that he does have has taken a toll. Isn't putting a lot of mustard on the throws. I don't think the arm strength is elite anymore. In fact, I think it's a big problem because he can't complete a lot of balls across the field because of that lack of arm strength. And Mike Tomlin, since becoming a head coach back in 2007, has never had a losing season in Pittsburgh. It's been an unbelievable run of consistency. So why start now with the losing season? So if Ben Roethlisberger gets hurt in training camp or in the preseason or even during the start of the regular season, why not, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, trade for Jimmy Garoppolo because you don't have a clear-cut option after Ben to take over as QB number 1. Mason Rudolph, we've seen him play. He's a bona fide backup. Dwayne Haskins, he's a scrub. You have Josh Dobbs on the roster, but Jimmy G, outside of Big Ben, is better than any of the quarterbacks currently on this roster right now. Let's get to the Miami Dolphins as team number 4. The Dolphins have a loaded roster, right? They went 10-6 in 2020. They were playing for a playoff spot in Week 17. But Tua Tagovailoa didn't play all that well last year with the exception of that game in Arizona when he went off. And there are a lot of questions hovering around Tua right now. The arm last year coming out of Alabama, it looked average. The injury concerns, especially with that hip, are always going to be there with Tua. And a couple weeks ago, he comes out and says that he didn't really have a grasp and didn't know the offense last year as a rookie. That really surprised me because coming out of Bama with Saban, he was looked at as a precocious, smart, intelligent quarterback who had a great knowledge of the offensive system at Bama. But he didn't know it as a rookie, as a starting quarterback. That's certainly a red flag. And I think Jimmy G would be able to slide in if Tua doesn't play well and help this team immediately. You look at what Tua did last year in 2020. Completion percentage, 64, below league average. He threw for less than 2,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. And really, everything seemed kind of pre-organized for Tua prior to the snap. He was completing out routes as well as crossers. None of the throws really impressed me all that much from a going through your reads perspective or arm strength perspective. And it's do or die time for Tua. He's got to step up. And if he doesn't, Jimmy G could get traded to the Miami Dolphins. So where do you think Jimmy G will end up this season in 2021? Is he going to be on the Niners? Is he going to be on some of these teams that we're talking about, or the teams that we will predict coming up here on today's show? Get those predictions in the comment section. How about the Denver Broncos? They have Drew Lock. They have Teddy Bridgewater, who they traded for with the Carolina Panthers. But are those two quarterbacks better than Jimmy G? I would sit here and say definitively no. Here's the thing with the Broncos, though. They loaded up on that defense. They spent a bunch of money at the linebacking core, especially the secondary at cornerback and safety. They have a really good defensive front, and there's a lot of pressure for Vic Fangio going into his third season to win right now. And if you're trotting out stiffs at quarterback like Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater, you're probably going to get fired. And if Vic Fangio is on the hot seat feeling the heat of needing to win games right away, because that pressure is certainly there, is a trade for Jimmy G logical? Really good offensive weapons on this roster too. The only problem, it is quarterback with Lock as well as Teddy Bridgewater. I think the case is out. The jury has spoken on Bridgewater. He's a good spot starter. He's not a good long-term starter. And for Drew Lock, there's some untapped potential there. But I just think this guy is somewhat average. And you look at both of these quarterbacks side to side, Bridgewater and Lock, they're just okay. And Jimmy G, when healthy, I think he's the better quarterback. Bridgewater last year with Joe Brady as his offensive coordinator, he was actually pretty good. His completion percentage was 69. Great number, by the way, when you're looking at numbers overall, but also completion percentage. But there's just not that wow factor with Bridgewater. And there's not that wow factor or consistency with Drew Lock either. That's why I think a trade for Jimmy Garoppolo and the Denver Broncos is certainly in play. And that's why we have the Broncos ranked at number 3. If the 49ers do make a move, if there's any breaking news with the Niner gang, you know we have you covered here on the 49ers Report. So make sure you are subscribed by going to youtube.com/49erstv and turn on those notifications. Therefore, anytime we push out a video, anytime we go live, if there is breaking news, you will be notified. Dwindling down this list, next up, Houston Texans. What's going to happen with Deshaun Watson? Who the hell knows? Little background for me. I used to work for a local news station in Pennsylvania, one of the most watched local news stations across the entire country. I covered a lot of sports. I covered some crime. And I can tell you, when it comes down to lawsuits, when it comes down to situations like Deshaun Watson is in, these have a tendency to play out for a very long time. And I'm not sure it's going to get resolved before this season. And if the Texans don't have Deshaun Watson this year, if maybe he's suspended for future seasons, they are screwed at quarterback, which is why we have the Texans on this list. And if the 49ers want to free up some salary, dump Jimmy Garoppolo off to the Texans, who are a quarterback-needy team, even without Deshaun Watson, because the backup options, even with Tyrod Taylor, they are just okay. And I want to emphasize this again. Fred Warner, he has to get paid. He's an all-pro linebacker and a game wrecker. Joey Bosa, going into year 3, set for a payday as well. Jimmy Garoppolo going to make $24 million in 2021, $24 million this season after that. The Niners at some point have to clear salary. That's why we're talking about Jimmy G as a trade candidate. With Deshaun Watson, he's an all-world player. We just don't know if he's going to be available for the Texans this year because of everything that's going on legally right now, which we won't get into because let's let everything play out in that regard. As for the other quarterbacks on the roster, imagine if Watson doesn't play this year, which I think could be a possibility. Tyrod Taylor is your starter. You have Davis Mills and Jeff Driscoll. Jimmy Garoppolo goes into this quarterback room and immediately he can become the starter. That's why we have the Texans as a logical trade partner to go after Jimmy Garoppolo. Team number 1. It's the best team on this list and maybe the best fit for Jimmy G if he wants a run at a Super Bowl. It's the Washington football team. Their defense, one of the most vicious, one of the most ferocious in the league last year, and I think it's going to be even better this upcoming season because they did more work with that secondary. That defensive front, it is absolutely outstanding. And who do they have at quarterback? It's Ryan Fitzpatrick. Yes, at times throughout his career, Fitzpatrick has put up monster games and monster numbers for stretches. But there's a reason why Fitzpatrick has been a journeyman and he's played for a plethora of teams throughout his career. He's a backup for a reason. Now, Taylor Heineke in that playoff game in the wild card round against the Tampa Bay Bucks did pretty well, and he earned himself a roster spot on this team moving forward. But the Washington football team at the quarterback spot, I don't think it's set. Ryan Fitzpatrick can win you a couple games, but would you take him over Jimmy G? Some of you, maybe. And maybe it's even 50-50. But for me, I'm taking Jimmy G. I think he's obviously the younger guy. I think he has more ability. But outside of Fitzpatrick and Taylor Heineke, Kyle Allen, you put Jimmy Garoppolo on that roster, and immediately, I think the Washington football team without Jimmy G, a player to win the NFC West, or NFC East, excuse me, you put Jimmy G on that roster, I think they could even be players to compete for a Super Bowl. That's how high I am on the depth and the talent on that Washington roster. So to summarize it all up, all of the trade destinations for Jimmy Garoppolo: Washington football team in at number 1, the Houston Texans in at number 2, the Denver Broncos at number 3. And as we continue to float through these other teams, we gave you 6 teams to look at: Miami Dolphins at number 4, the Pittsburgh Steelers number 5, the New Orleans Saints at number 6. All of those squads possible destinations for Jimmy Garoppolo if Trey Lance lights the world on fire and becomes the QB1 for the 49ers in 2021. Before we head out of here, rate Jimmy Garoppolo as a quarterback and scale it for us from 0 to 100. I think he's in the 80 range. I think there's a lot of Tom Brady in him. I think there are a lot of winning qualities that he possesses. In terms of the intangibles, I like it. The skill set. He helped lead the Niners to a Super Bowl. Give me an 83 for Jimmy Garoppolo, but be sure to get your votes in the comments section.